How do they prevent suicide? Well, near and dear to our fifth principle, supporting the democratic process, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention advocates for better mental health legislation on the state and national levels. They fund scientific research. They provide resources and support for survivors of suicide loss. They provide educational programs for professionals. And to me, the most important thing they do is to educate the public. They teach about the symptoms of mood disorders and other mental illnesses. They teach these because over 90% of people who die by suicide have a mental illness, usually depression, at the time of their death. But recognizing the symptoms of depression isn't taught in society. Neither are the risk factors and warning signs of someone that might be thinking of suicide. But they should be. They should be taught because there are over twice as many suicides in Ohio as there are homicides. And in Kentucky, it's 3 times as many suicides as homicides. Recognizing these signs should be taught because suicide is the leading cause of death in Ohio for children ages 10 to 14. Children. The symptoms of mood disorders need to be taught because people are afraid to talk about it or seek help. Because in our society, it's okay to talk about brain cancer and most illnesses from the chin down, but not other illnesses of the brain. You're not supposed to talk about depression, anxiety, bipolar. Nobody wants to experience the stigma of being called crazy or worse. But depression, like many illnesses, can be fatal. And that's really sad, because mental illness can be treated. And with that treatment, you can recover from mental illness, and suicide can be prevented. But first, we have to get rid of the stigma. We have to admit that whether we are aware of it or not, we do know someone that struggles with mental illness, and they're not crazy. Truth is, 1 in 4 adults struggle from mental illness in any given year. So with statistics like that, it's pretty safe to say that you or someone you know has been affected by mental illness. In fact, for those of you that know me, I know it's safe to say. Because I battle depression. And I believe that it's important for those of us who struggle with mental illness to speak out. It's important to show you that someone you know struggles with a mental illness that almost became fatal. Just 2 months ago, on August 9th, I attempted suicide. But suicide is preventable. My therapist knows the risk factors and warning signs of suicide. He knows that I have almost every risk factor in the book. He knew that I was battling the lies that depression made me believe. The lies that say I'm worthless, that I'm not good enough, and that my husband, children, and the world would be better off without me. The lie that the first principle affirming the inherent dignity and worth of every person could not possibly apply to me. My therapist knew that when I left a voicemail for him that said only, "I'm sorry," and then didn't answer the phone when he called back, that it was a warning sign. He called the police. They found me in my neighborhood and took me to the hospital. My children, who were at the library with my husband at the time, We're told that mommy is sick and had to go to the hospital so the doctors could change the medicine and help me feel better. A suicide of someone you know was prevented because of the knowledge of the risk factors and warning signs of suicide. Knowledge that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention teaches. I've had that medication change, and with the support of my treatment team, my family, and me, I'm doing a lot better now. But what this shows is that recognizing the symptoms of mental illness and knowing the warning signs and risk factors of suicide matters. Treatment matters. Spreading awareness to reduce the stigma around mental illness so that people aren't afraid to ask for help matters. What the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention does matters. And now, I challenge you. I'm not going to challenge you to go to the walk like you might think. That's not a challenge. It's easy and fun and life-affirming, and I certainly invite you to join me there. What I am going to challenge you for, and I'm not going to challenge you for an ice bucket challenge either, but what I will challenge you is to meet or exceed that donation that you might have made to avoid the ice bucket challenge. Just saying. And we have a covenant to affirm the worth and dignity of every person. So I challenge you to do even more. Today, you're probably going to think that I'm brave or courageous for coming up here and telling my story. And I want you to stop yourself and ask, why? Why is it brave or courageous for me to come up here and tell of my experience with a biological illness, a treatable illness? Why is that considered brave or courageous? And most of all, I challenge you to learn. Learn what the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention teaches. Learn the warning signs and risk factors of suicide. Learn the symptoms of mental illness so that you know you have the knowledge to maybe even save a life. The life of a friend, a loved one, and maybe even yourself. Blessed be.